Welcome back to another League 2 roundup. Apologies for the delay in the videos. Of course, there's a midweek round of games for us to review today, so I was struggling to pick a time to record the next roundup. I thought that Monday would have kind of been a bit short-lived to do one and then have a full round of games on Tuesday, so instead I decided for Wednesday. Obviously, there's one game, the Doncaster Barrow game, which I won't be covering in this one because that is tonight, but in the interest of getting this video out a reasonable time for you guys, I thought now was the good time to record. We're going to talk about 2 rounds of fixtures. We're going to go based on Tuesday night's fixtures, but also I will make references to the weekend as we have had 2 rounds of games since the last time that we spoke here on the channel. But before we do dive in, thank you so much for the support. Since the last video, we have hit 1,000 subscribers, which is a massive, massive milestone for the channel and means we can do so much with the channel moving forward. So yeah, hopefully more videos coming to you guys in the near future. So yeah, really, really do appreciate that. But without further ado, let's get straight into the games. And as like I say, we're going to go on the Tuesday night games. And we do start with Accrington against Cheltenham, a 0-0 draw this one. Cheltenham, as I said, I've said it quite a few times, season kind of over for them. Down in 14th place. Accrington now in 19th. A little bit of a cushion between them and the teams at the bottom. And what I will say, and it's going to be a conversation that rumbles on throughout the video, is that I do think that probably from 19th down, you could include Accrington, to be honest with you. I know they've had like a couple of good results. The win at Crewe at the weekend was massive for them, not only because obviously it's a win and they much needed, but also it was away at a team that at the time was second in the league. And that those 4 points have moved them. Well, they would be without those 4 points, they'd actually be 22nd. So it does show how tight it is down the bottom, how quickly things can change. But the conversation that will rumble on through the video is how poor are the teams down the bottom, and should there be 3 teams relegated? And for National League fans, should there be 3 teams promoted? Because I'm going to be honest, you know, Accrington, okay, fair enough, they've picked up a few decent results this season. They're probably better than some of the other sides down there that are worse. But out of those 6 teams, you know, they're all quite poor. And I think they would all struggle in the National League. And that's with all due respect to those teams and those clubs and the fans of those clubs. But I think they would all struggle in the division below. And I think some of them will stay up this season because there are teams worse than them, not necessarily because they have made a massive effort to stay up, and also because there are only 2 relegation spots. You've only got to be better than 2 other teams. So it's not that hard to stay up. You've got to be one of the 2 worst to go down. So that sounds like a really negative spin on Accrington. They've kept back-to-back clean sheets, to be fair to them, which is massive. And I think that, yeah, they've you know, it's a good result for them. Sean Whalley obviously scoring at the weekend. And Cheltenham, sorry to not talk about them too much, but like I say every week, I really like what they're doing. They're building for next season. They're giving young players plenty of experience. Michael Flinley's talking about bringing in new players this window. I think that's really interesting. I do hope they continue with the theme of bringing in younger players that they can develop for next season. I don't really see the point of... I mean, that made me short-sighted of me. They're at the 10 points of the playoffs, but I just don't know. Maybe the times they're going to make are really going to make a difference. They're looking at bringing a midfielder and a number 10, I believe. Maybe that'll make a huge difference to their squad, but yeah, as I said, I do think that they are looking at next season realistically for any real challenge. Bradford, they win and they go into the top 3. A brilliant run of form. Just look at that run. Wins galore. Not lost since they played Notts in December. Unbeaten to the turn of the year. In fact, the only game they've drawn in that run was on New Year's Day. Beat Morecambe yesterday 1-0. And okay, Morecambe, if we look at the league table, rock bottom. It's a potential banana skin, isn't it? But it's a professional performance, and it gets them the 3 points. What I've been so impressed with is Alex Patterson stepping up in the absence of Andy Cook, obviously out injured, and Anthony Sarcevic as well, who recently reached 500 games in his career. But Patterson, one of the best goal-scoring midfielders in this division. Just have a look at his career. Yes, 8 goals in the last 2 seasons doesn't look a lot, but if you look at the amount of games he's played, you actually break that down, it's not that many in the league at all. 24, and he's got a very nice amount of goals across that. And then you look at his stats at Harrogate as well. Very, very, very impressive. So kind of gone on a tangent there for Bradford, but really, really good. I think the style suits them. 3 clean sheets back to back. They've beaten the bottom 2 sides, and they've beaten the top side. So they're showing they can beat all different types of opposition. They were the side that halted Walsall, and of course we're going to talk about Walsall a little bit later on, but they were the side that stopped them, and Kavanagh up front with a goal. Tommy Lee starting. I think it's what's really good about them. They've still got Michael Mellon to come in. He's on the bench, barely featured. Alex Patterson was dropped and came on, so they're able to rotate a little bit and preserve minutes and conserve a little bit of energy. And yeah, really, really impressed with Bradford. So, and in terms of Morecambe, same old story, isn't it? 1-0 losses galore. They are going to have a lot of 1-0 results this season. If you look at the score lines there, 0-0, 1-0, 2-0. You know, they either win a game 1-0 and keep a clean sheet, or if a team scores against them, they find it very hard to go and find a goal because they haven't got the quality up top, and that comes with all the constraints. They, of course, had a kind of a terrible board update, really, not from the board of directors, but the fact that there's that unhappiness with ownership that was insinuated throughout that statement. You know, that tells a story in itself. Lee Angol's red card was reviewed and was not successful, and that's been a bit controversial as well. So things are not going right for them at the minute, and it's very bleak for them. But I think they're in a no pressure situation in compared to some of the other teams because they're kind of expected to be down there, so in a weird way. Chesterfield, they beat Bromley 3-0. Really good result for them. Fires them close towards the playoffs. They're still 6 points off, but Armando Dobra scoring and assisting. Very, very, very talented player. And if you look at that side, full of quality. Of course, they have lost Dylan Markande, who has been smashing it at Leyton Orient, by the way, already. 2 goals in 2 games, firing them into the playoffs. But, you know, Armando Dobra's still at the club, and they've got Ben Peppel up front and people like that. New additions, Jack Sparks down the left-hand side, very attacking. And, well, Bromley were down to 10 men relatively early on. It was, 23 minutes in, and Marshall Rumney sent off. So down to 10 men, always going to be difficult. And I think that, you know, it's the kind of game where, again, Bromley aren't going to lose too much heart from it. They're in a good place. They've got a good draw at Meadow Lane. They've had a few poor results, fair enough, but they're in a very, very good position in 13th. And again, they're not in any trouble going down. They're probably not going to push for playoffs, but that's absolutely perfect for a newly promoted team. And then Chesterfield, draw against Port Vale at the weekend. It's actually a decent result considering where Port Vale are in the table. And then a win over Bromley. You know, yes, it was against 10 men, so still yet to be convinced they've absolutely turned the corner, but I think they've got the quality in this squad to do that. We move on then to, well, Colchester-Port Vale was postponed, so Port Vale didn't play, so that's probably why they're down to 7th. Just to briefly talk about those two teams. Port Vale at the weekend drawing with Chesterfield, we just spoke about that. That's a decent result away from home. They kind of have turned it around a little bit after a very poor run. And then Colchester, it's a shame not to see them play because they kept 3 back-to-back clean sheets with 3 pretty decent results. Harrogate away isn't a great result considering where they are in the table, but I have to say, away from home, a long way to go. All those factors you've got to consider. Tuesday night as well, it's not a bad result. And then a couple of good wins. Again, I think they're in the category a little bit like Bromley, where I don't think they're not going to go down. I don't think they've quite got enough to go and challenge either. We move on then to the next game, which is Crewe against Wimbledon. A 1-1 draw, and this game had draw written all over it. 2 of the best sides in this division. 4th against 5th. This game had draw written. I thought it'd be 0-0 draw, but 1-1. Yeah, you can see it. 2 sides who are so good defensively, such good structure, so well drilled. And both sides got decent quality in them. They do have quality going forwards, but both sides are very much built on having that solidity. And that was evident. You know, they've got 2 good goalkeepers in there, 2 good young goalkeepers, like to stress that, in Goodman and Marshall. And good squads overall, but this was always going to be a very tight game. And I think both sides will be happy with the point retrospectively. Obviously, Wimbledon, in terms of the actual momentum of the game, on top. Away from home, though, I think if you'd offered them a point before the game, they would have taken it. Crewe, maybe at home, would have felt they could have got more, but again, against a very good side. I think this is a pretty good point. I know teams around them would have been happy with the result because it means points dropped. However, you know, you're beating sides in and around your. Crewe, at the minute, obviously, they did lose to Accrington at the weekend, but again, very, very low scoring. Like I say, obviously, ignoring the fact they have the 2 games against Carlisle and Bromley there. But if you just look at the other games, your Swindon, your Morecambe game, they're all very low scoring. And Wimbledon, very much the same. A 0-0 draw with their if you call it rivals or whatever you want to call it, MK Dons at the weekend. Again, it's not a bad result, and again, a lot of low-scoring games, very few conceded, so it makes sense, and both are in very good positions moving forwards. We then come into a very intriguing game, and I think this one's got a lot of talking points. You've got Fleetwood, who I think could emerge from the pack of the teams in the middle as the team, along with, I look at them and MK Dons there as teams, and MK Dons only based on quality because performances haven't been great for them, but Fleetwood's performances have been strong, and I look at them from the pack and think, could they go on a run and challenge? Could they? And they've had the games in hand. They've still got a game in hand over other teams as well. They've got a gaffer in Pete Wild who's already having an impact, and they've got some very, very good players in their squad as well. And I think that they've got a real chance of pushing for the promotion places this season. Will they quite get there? I'm not sure, but they've got quality in this team. They really do. So I do think that combine that with, okay, yes, they lost at the weekend to Carlisle, which poor result, but they've been on a, if you take the runs, the results in aggregate recently, it's been pretty good. They beat some good sides in and around them, and I do think, you look at the fixtures they've got coming up, some favourable fixtures until they play Wimbledon. So I think we could be talking about them in a few weeks' time as being potential playoff contenders. Going to call that early. Part of the reason I've said that though is because they've gone and beat the league leaders Walsall, who have lost 2 on the spin. The big talking point for them is up front. Of course, they lost Nathan Lowe, they lost Jamil Matt now as well. So they've had to rotate up front, and it seems to have caused a little bit of, I don't know, disjointedness as well. I do think Charlie Lakin is missing in this midfield. Jamie Jallis has got to be on that right-hand side for that sort of connection with Connor Barrett that he showed earlier in the season. Charlie Lakin's energy down the left-hand side is so important as well. And I think that might be a change that we see moving forwards. There is 2 back-to-back losses for Walsall. It is 2 games without a goal. They're quite heavy defeats as well. But you look at the cushion at the top of the table, they're 11 points clear of Notts County. They're 11 points clear of 4th. So they're still in a massive, massive position. And those are 2 tough away games. They're back at home at the weekend. I think they're going to be fine. I really do. I think they've got too much big of a cushion. I think they've got too good of a manager to let it slip. But it is interesting to note, and it is important to talk about because, of course, that is pretty big, isn't it? The league leaders losing 2 on the spin, but that's why that massive cushion is so important, because a blip was always inevitable for any team in this division. No side's going to go and win every single game. It just happens they've lost 2 games back to back. If they'd lost one, then won 2, then lost another one, it wouldn't be that much of a bigger talking point because it's back to back. So I do think they're going to be fine. Talking of talking points, Grimsby, in the first 25 games this season, they drew 1 game. In the next 3 games, they drew 2 of them. A 97th minute equaliser against Gillingham. Very, very, I would say concerning times for Grimsby. But I'll be honest, kind of what I've been saying for weeks, and sorry to Grimsby fans, I really like David Artell, and I'd want them to do well, but I've been saying for weeks, I just expect them to drop off. I just don't think their run is sustainable. If you look at the underlying numbers, you look at the amount of games they haven't drawn, it's not normal, and you're going to eventually come back to normal, and that is where they're coming back to. They're coming back to their level. I look at the league table. I think MK Dons are a better side than them. I think Fleetwood are a better side than them. I think Bromley are probably a better side than them as well. There's a cluster of teams there. I think they're going to fall into that mid-table pack. I do. I've been saying that for a while. Gillingham will feel aggrieved. Perhaps would have felt they could have got the points away from home at all 3. So it's disappointing for them. But just talking on Grimsby very briefly, look at the run of form. And since New Year's, it's been very poor. Very, very, very poor indeed. And yeah, not much more to say on them. Gillingham, back-to-back draws. Tranmere, it's not a great draw, I'm going to be honest, because Tranmere are right down near the bottom. But considering where Gillingham are, I think they need to tick along. Their season is very much done. I think you've had to pick one team definitely who are out of this season already. You're probably picking them because I don't think they're going to go up. I don't think they're going to go down. So, yeah, for me, very interesting game because Grimsby drawing, and I think they are the main talking point in that one. MK Dons got a last-minute winner despite not being at their best. It's been really a story, really, for them. They've got so much quality in this team, but at what point do we start to say, do they? The run of form isn't brilliant. It's a good point against Wimbledon. it's a good 3 points against Harrogate, considering that Harrogate equalised in the 92nd minute and they pegged them straight back in the 94th. It's difficult to assess them kid-ons because, like I say, I do really think they've got a lot of quality in their team. You know, Dan Crowley got an assist. Jay Williams is in that midfield, so he's starting to look like a Scott Lindsay side. Nathan Thompson came off after 25 minutes. He was looking like a very, very big signing for them as well. Yeah, they've got some very good players. But at what point do we say, you know, they aren't quite where they need to be? You know, I think top 7 is kind of a minimum for them this season in terms of expectation. I still think they can do it, but they'll need to perform a little bit better than they have. Harrogate, as the stats show you there, on top and probably deserved something, if not all of the points in that one. Harrogate down near the bottom end of the table. They'll take a lot of heart from that performance. But when you're down near the bottom, points are most important. Well, points are most important anyway, but points are so important when you're down near the bottom of the table. What I will say is all the games are close for Harrogate. And I look at those bottom 6 sides, and I do think they stand out. Probably the best of those sides. You maybe could argue Accrington, but I do think Harrogate are probably the best of those sides. So I think they'll be fine. I think, like I said earlier in the video, you only need 2 teams to be worse than you. I think Harrogate is plenty worse than them in that division, and they've got enough about them to stay up this season. They've made some decent additions in January, so I think they're going to be fine. But either way, it's 3 points for MK Dons. Harrogate need some points to show for their results, but I do think that is encouraging. Notts County, they moved into second place. Alessandra Jatta with the goal. Not a vintage performance by any stretch of the imagination, but from Notts' perspective, I'm hoping that it's more so playing to the level of the opposition, and that's no disrespect to Carlisle, who actually played all right, to be fair, but they're down in 23rd. So I'm hoping that it's playing below your level and you know, it'll move up. Ron McDonald continues to be a talking point for Notts. Kind of 2 left footers down the right hand side. It's feeling very unnatural down that side, and I thought that Zach Johnson, when he came on, looked more of a natural option, to be honest with you. Curtis Evans made an impact as well when he came on, so that was also positive for a Notts perspective, and up into second place. Very, very, very impressive, despite not being kind of at the best at the minute. Notts, like I say, a draw with Bromley and a win against Carlisle, also scoring just 2 goals, is enough to send Notts into second place. That shows how tight this League 2 is, and you could maybe say the quality of the whole league is not quite there, but not good enough for 3 points in that one. Carlisle did get a win at Fleetwood, and I think they're turning the corner. I really do. I've been saying it for a long time. I just think they've got too good of a manager, and they've got too good of a squad not to turn it around. Mark Nielsen gets a lot of criticism, but I think he's a fantastic coach, and I think if he's given time and recruited the right players, which they have, in January, okay, they haven't recruited a side that I think is going to be anywhere near challenging, but they've recruited smartly. What they've done is they've brought in players that Mark Nielsen trusts. Okay, are these players top-end League 2 players? Probably not. Are they League 1 players? Probably not. Are they League 2 quality? Yeah, they probably are good enough for League 2. They're good enough for the National League. And that's not me saying they're getting ready for next season. What I'm saying is, with those quality of players, you can get a real good tune out of them as a collective if they're used to his style. And they only need to be better than 2 of the other teams in that discussion. And they brought the players in definitely good enough to do that, and players that he trusts and he knows his style of football. So very, very much encouraged by Carlisle. They've got a very nice run of fixtures coming up. I mean, up until they play Walsall in March, all of those games you say they can win. Genuinely, every single one of those they could win. So I do think they'll turn the corner. I really do, and I think they're better. Maybe when all's said and done, out of those 6 teams, maybe they'll finish the highest. The only thing holding me back from saying that is the fact they're 8 points behind Accrington at the minute. But when all's said and done, I do think that they could finish the highest, because I think they've got the most quality, and I think probably got the best gaffer as well. We move on to Salford then, and talking the sides down near the bottom, we've got Newport, a 1-1 draw, despite being down to 10. Only for the last 15, but still kind of sums up Newport in the minute that they couldn't take advantage of that. We'll talk about them first. Look at the run of form they're in. Absolutely terrible. 5 losses on the spin. This result may just keep Nelson Jardim in his job. That sounds really harsh to say, but when you're looking at a side who you look at any side losing 6 on the spin, that's kind of the cut-off. A lot of teams then look at 5, 6, 7 losses, your job becomes untenable. So a draw there may just keep them in the job. And looking at the 3 of the next 4 at home against sides who are in the bottom 7, if they don't pick up points across those games, surely pressure will be on. But yeah, Newport are hurtling towards that drop zone along with Tranmere. But both may stay up because there's sides worse than this division. That's why it's crazy. There's only 2 teams in the drop. There'd be so much more panic if there was 3, because Tranmere would be in it right now, and Newport would be like, oh, wow, we're 1 point above it. We need to turn it around. But at the minute, they're 6 points above the drop. They're not too concerned. However, as I talked about Carlisle just a second ago, they could turn it around. Newport could be the side that drop into it. As for Salford, it's a good result, especially when they had 10 men. It's a good result to stop the little mini rot they were on following the Man City game. They're on this incredible run, and then they've hit a little mini dip. But they're still up in the mix. They're still up in 8th. They have got Walsall away next. Very, very tough game, to be fair. But a couple of decent home games coming up. Promotion and top 7 stuck up with the ambition for them. It's about finding a way to turn the corner well and truly for Salford. We then finally, we're going to talk about the game that the Barrow Doncaster game. We'll talk about those 2 teams in a minute. But finally, in terms of this round of fixtures, Swindon, Tranmere. Just spoke about Tranmere. Let's go into them again. Hurtling towards the bottom. A better run than Newport, to be fair, but the negativity around the club at Tranmere feels extremely heightened. I think both sets of fans of Newport and Tranmere are pretty down in the dumps at the minute, and every reason to be. This game was absolutely insane, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But look at that run. The wins over Harrogate and Carlisle may keep them in this division. I have said that before. But yeah, terrible run. And this game sums it up. Until the 86th minute, they were 1-0 up. They went down to 10 at 62. Fair enough. They're down to 10 men. But look at that. 86th minute is an equaliser. 90th minute, they go 2-1 down. 94th minute, they get a red card. And then penalty scored by Shemanga to make it 3-1. Swindon, in the same game, they are the benefactors of that insane finish. 3 wins on the spin. Ian Holloway deserves a huge amount of praise and probably some apologies from myself and other people that cover the league, because we all doubted the appointment. If we're really honest, we all did doubt it. We all were like, he's not managed for a long time, but my word, has he turned it round there. I have said they've got a good squad. They have got a good team. The goal scorers there in that game show it. Paul Glatzel, Harry Smith, Kumonga Shemanga. That is a front 3 that a lot of teams in this league would be happy with and would envy. When you add in George Cox, when you add in Kilkenny, when you add in the likes, even Drinnan, good quality player for the division, Will Wright, so many good players. So they've got a good squad. Is the season over for them? I would say yes. I don't see them going on a run to challenge for the playoffs. But to be fair, I've just said Fleetwood, because they're only 2 points behind them and they've won 3 on the spin. I do think that'll be a step too far. Let's not get carried away with ourselves. But very, very positive signs for Swindon. And then let's talk about Barrow and Doncaster. By the time you watch this, it'll be very shortly playing. So I'm not going to do like an official prediction for the game or anything like that. That'll probably age really badly. But Doncaster beat Harrogate at the weekend. A good result for them. Sees them up in 5th, and a win in this game tonight would take them as high as 2nd, although they have played a game more than teams in and around them if they play tonight against Barrow. And Barrow down in 18th. Didn't include them in the drop because they did win against Grimsby at home at the weekend. They've got a new gaffer in Andy Wing, who I really, really rate. I think he's a very, very good gaffer. Did a very good job at Solihull, and I think he's going to get them way out of danger. And I think, as I say, there's 6 teams in that division way worse than them, and there's no danger really for them. In truth, that win against Grimsby stopped the rot straight away. And that brings it to an end, brings to a close another League 2 roundup. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Really appreciate the support, like I said at the start of the video. Thousands of subscribers is absolutely massive. And yeah, really, really appreciative for that. If you could like the video, it really does help. If you could comment below if you enjoyed it, please do let me know. And if you could subscribe if you're not already, of course, we're going to aim for 1.1 next, and keep ticking off those milestones. But if you could subscribe if you're not already, that would be massively, massively appreciated. And I just want to say thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.